Hello and welcome back to the Graham Sibbald Podcast. My name is Jorja and I will be your host today. On this week's episode of the Graham Sibbald Podcast, we're heading north all the way up to Inverness to chat to one of the key members of the team about the Inverness property market. As there are many Graham Sibbald offices in Scotland and in Manchester, it's great to be able to catch up with other members of the team a little bit further afield. We'll be offering you some key insights, hearing about how the team is dealing and keeping safe during the coronavirus pandemic, and some key future predictions into the Inverness property market. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the Graham Sibbald Podcast. Welcome to the Graham Sibbald Podcast. We're here today with Kyle Davidson, who is an associate and residential surveyor based within the firm's Inverness office. Good morning, Kyle. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Really good, thank you. Can't complain. So, could you tell us a little bit about your role within Graham Sibbald?
Yeah, sure. So I joined Graham Sibbald in July 2019. I'm an associate residential surveyor based in the Inverness office, working alongside Neil Cromarty. Day to day, we carry out home reports and valuations for private clients and lenders. We cover the Scottish Highlands and the Murray Coast, so it's a fair geographical area, and we see a large variety of properties as well.
That sounds really interesting. So obviously COVID-19 has impacted everything basically, but how has it impacted the Inverness residential property market, and what have business levels been like over the last few months?
Yeah, so I think, as with everywhere else in Scotland, the residential property market effectively ground to a halt with the first lockdown in March 2020. When it did reopen, this created a real backlog of property transactions. And in June, there was a real surge of instructions with people looking to sell their properties and move on. And this in turn led to an unprecedented level of activity in the local market. Properties were going on, they were selling quickly. In some cases, significant premiums were being paid well over home report valuation. In turn, coupled with changes to the land and building transaction tax and historically low interest rates, it further helped kickstart the property market back in June, and it really remained buoyant throughout the whole of 2020. On a more local level, speaking to estate agents, there's been a real interest in the Inverness market and outlying areas from people across the UK looking to relocate, probably as a result of previously office-based staff being able to work from home and the continuation of change to working and lifestyle patterns. Within the last few months, unlike last spring, the housing market has remained open, albeit with distancing restrictions in place, and this has led to a steady stream of survey instructions and property market activity.
So you mentioned earlier that you cover a really broad area. So are there any specific areas across the Highlands doing better than others? And if so, why do you think that this could be?
Inverness, it's always remained a popular destination. We've certainly seen increased demand for properties in semi-rural locations such as the Black Isle, places like that, which are close to Inverness. You can usually get a bit more green space, but still be within commuting distance to the city's amenities. Also popular with lockdown, rural properties within the northwest coast of Scotland. Places such as Skye and Lochalsh have also seen great levels of interest, particularly from buyers down south, maybe looking for a change of lifestyle. Always popular coastal properties, and they have been more so, possibly just with the impact of coronavirus, looking for a bit more space and a bit more remoteness. Again, probably just as a result of changes to working patterns, not having to work from the office, all contribute to demand for these rural locations. I would say one of the main things though is providing there's a broadband connection, because usually that is essential and not always the case in these more outlying areas.
That's fab. So obviously, we've spoken to other people across Graham Sibbald about how they've been able to go around and deliver services safely during the pandemic. So how has your team adapted to ensure all the surveys are being carried out safely?
So again, everyone across the firm has been working from home where they can. And we're no different. It's, Teams meetings like this, Zoom calls. It did take a bit of getting used to initially, but I think everyone's got the hang of it now. We're obviously still able to undertake survey inspections, and we're doing so just with the necessary PPE equipment. So your usual face masks, hand sanitizer, and gloves. That all helps to undertake property survey safely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be so weird going back to a world without face masks. So what is next for the Inverness property market?
Have you got a crystal ball?
It's all up in the air.
Yeah. I mean, I think just with COVID restrictions being lifted over the next few months, there'll be an increased activity in the property market again, probably not to the level as June last year, just mainly because the market has remained open. I expect the Inverness property market itself and the Highland market as a whole to remain popular with buyers locally and also from further afield. And really the Highlands is a great place to live and work, especially if you like that kind of outdoor lifestyle. Within Inverness, you're never more than 10 minutes probably from the countryside, and that really does attract a lot of people up here. So yeah, I think just more of the same going forward.
Great. It's so good to hear there's so much happening up in Inverness. Well, thank you so much, Kyle, for your time today.
No worries at all. Thanks, Jorja.
Thanks again to Kyle for coming on this week's episode of the Graham Sibbald Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, feel free to check out our other episodes on the Graham Sibbald YouTube channel. Until then, stay safe and stay tuned for the next one.